Let's work. Yo, it's go time, showtime, never backing down time. One shot, yo, make it count, yo. Crunch time, shine time, make this moment my time. Get a grip, yo, ready, set, go. We bring the thunder! Bring the thunder! Let's work. Bring the thunder! Let's go. Bring the thunder! Let's work. Bring the thunder! Let's work. Yeah, it's my time, yo time. Step into the spotlight. Get lit, yo. Let yourself go. Our time, high time. Gotta go big time. This is it, yo. Never take no flight time. Grind time. Take it to the street time. Turn the roof off. Get loco. Game time, win time. We gon' bring it home time. No regrets now. Let it all go. We bring the thunder. Bring the thunder. Let's work. Bring the thunder. Let's go. Bring the thunder. Let's work. Bring the thunder. Let's work.
Well, good evening, and welcome to Mountain Bears. Of course, I'm Aeson Knight, Big Bear himself, and of course, we've got our little cub, Techy Joe, in. Hey, y'all doing? It has been a week. We're getting ready to go live, and what do I hear? Rain. Rain. And I'm like, okay, how can we make this all work? Because the dog's got to get in. Well, first the cat has to get put up. The dog has to be brought in. The dog has to be coaxed into his room. The door has to be shut. It's a whole freaking routine.
It is.
Yeah, I'm trying to get ready for the show. So, yes, we're late. We're sorry we're late. Gizmo's safely at home and safely in his little kennel.
Absolutely.
Now, he may have commentary later. He had commentary earlier today about some of the calls I took. Yeah, I can have his commentary. He looks like a little koala, so he can. I guess we can call him a bear. You do.
Hey, well, I mean, yeah, he kind of is.
Yeah. So, do you want our feel-good story, or you want to dig into the trash, and then we work our way out?
Oh, let's work our way out to the feel-good story. I'm sorry, I didn't realize there was a feel-good story. Hey, Brenda. Hey, Shannon. Hi, Sandy. Hey, Mary. Make sure we said hello to everyone.
It didn't get over the. Well, yeah, it did.
Oh, what?
I'll send it in private.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow, I missed a few. Okay, sorry, I'm good now.
Sandy, you can have all that you want. I know we're in a drought. West Virginia's in a drought. It is August. We barely normally get rain. For some reason, we have gotten a lot no kill. I ain't done any rain spells. My red knife is put up. I wish it would go somewhere else.
It would kind of be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really would. Alrighty. But yeah, no, it's, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for being in a drought, I do have to say it's been annoyingly rainy. Like, it's been inconvenient rain. It's been either horrific heat or inconvenient rain.
Or invisible storms.
Yeah, like the storm that pretends it's going to happen all day long, and then it's just heat lightning.
Yeah.
It's like we're just going to sit here and listen to thunder and lightning. Or, well, see lightning, but listen to the thunder roll past us, nowhere near us.
Yep. And Gizmo go, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. Open this damn door.
Yeah, we're sick of both, Mary. It's just because that's how our summer, that's how it's been for months now. Is it's either ungodly hot, or it's the most inconvenient rain. It's like, let me choose a time of the day that will screw you up. And just, trash everything.
I stay let's move to San Francisco. We're 70 degrees and sunny most of the year.
I don't know. I'm I'm done with the heat, but hell, even moving north, though, used to be the escape, like move to the Northeast, deal
Mm-hmm.
with the snow. You'll never own an air conditioner. You will never need an air conditioner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we saw that this year.
Mm-hmm.
As people were like completely melting down in the heat.
With the numbers
Um,
in July was the hottest month of the year so far, and the hottest
mhm.
July on record.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Mary's pointing out in New York it's 87. Sorry, I'm filling in information.
I know.
She said multiple times. We've
Yeah.
talked multiple times. It's okay. But yeah. Oh, so Shannon says they told a friend how to make a swamp cooler to help them out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the one with the ice, the insulated cooler, the fan,
Mm-hmm.
that setup. Yeah,
Yeah.
those. And the sad part is those aren't actually all that hard to make.
Mm-hmm.
The thing you do have to watch out for though is that you're increasing the humidity and it actually gets cooler immediately around it, much like, jumping in a lake makes you cooler. But it's the evaporation off of it that can sometimes turn around and bite you in the butt because you increase the relative humidity,
Yep.
which is in turn going to make everything feel like hot, slimy, nasty, muggy. Like it's basically you could create the southern problem,
Right.
which is literally it's too humid.
I don't know. I think I personally would prefer the Arizona problem. I
Oh,
like
the
dry.
dry heat. Oh, I don't know. I'm done with heat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I really do better in winter. Like I always have. I do better in winter. I like having the problem of okay, let's turn the heat up just a little. It's kind of cold.
Right.
Like that's the point I like to live at. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we're living by ACs as much as possible.
I'm trying to, yes.
Well, once again, I swear, and I'll be back. You talk for a minute about reinstatement day.
Oh yeah. So in comical news, which really prediction. So Newsweek. So Trump reinstatement day, latest failure in predictions he'll resume presidency and oust Biden. That's their headline. So yeah, like I don't know. I think we've all basically already heard this story. We've been hearing it since, after the election. It's kind of not stopped.
Right.
And, blah, 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 blah. Someone predicts President Trump will be reinstated on this prediction occurs. Everyone, talks about it. It all basically boils down to bullshit. Because it's never going to happen.
Right.
And next prediction, next claim, next whatever, each one getting a little more, fantastical. Like seriously, guys, like the last one, this one, the August 13th, Trump will resume power, was the creation of Mike Lindell. You know him as the My Pillow guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Ashley,
So,
yes, we will be talking about that in a minute.
oh yeah. But yeah, it's just
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It is insane. This is now at the level of doomsday cults.
yeah. Well, because we're like this is literally 1 in 10 voters, 1 in 10 registered voters, not 1 in 10 registered Republican voters. 1 in 10 registered voters believes this will happen. That means that because there cannot be a huge number of registered, unaffiliated, registered, Democrats that are believing this. So that means your 1 in 10 is actually comprised of I would guesstimate 95% registered Republicans. Now, considering the split roughly works out to a little over, I think 50, or right around 50-50. I think it's something like 46-46 and something else.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of registered Republicans that really think this is going to happen.
Right. But see, here's the problem with this, and here's the idea of it in general. When you do a 1 in 10 thing or a 1 in whatever thing, it's in the scope of who they surveyed.
Right.
They didn't come and ask us so that we could look at him and go, are you stupid? Nobody wants him back as president. Nobody wanted him as a president to begin with. He bought his way in there. He lied and cheated his way through it. And him and his porn star wife can go back to the Ukraine where they belong.
Well, yeah, and that is kind of the bigger thing is who are they polling?
Right.
So let's go with 1 in 10 registered voters. That's still an unfortunately high number.
Mm-hmm. That's a very high number for the level of stupidity. But then we also see the level of stupidity going on in this country.
And that's kind of the thing, Mary, the reinstatement day based on what?
What?
Exactly. How is this going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Like everywhere he's tried to challenge this election, that's failed.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, you would be talking about some kind of a coup.
Right.
Like, as in, you would need to, form a, guerrilla military and effectively repeat January 9th or January 6th, but with professionals this time. And not just, the Capitol. You would have to, do a lot here.
Right, but this is even more worrisome is shit like this is now making us vulnerable to Taliban attacks, is making us vulnerable to extremist attacks, because we're showing them how to do it.
Effectively. And moreover, it's... I know this has to be doing a lot for fringe news sites.
Mm-hmm.
That are basically, this is their bread and butter and has been for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of, we're going to make outlandish claim. No one's going to fact check us. We've, any what would generally be called a reputable source,
Mm-hmm.
Mainstream television, etc., mainstream newspapers, any of what's considered a world source, they're not believable.
Right.
They're not believable. They're just horrible people, and they're out. They're against Trump, and they're against Republicans, and they're against this, and so you can't fact check these people you know what I mean? As they're making the outlandish claim.
Right.
And then your audience is primarily built of people that would rather believe a lie than to even fact check for truth to begin with.
Right.
They'd rather believe that Mike Lindell is right, and well, those evil Democrats, they thwarted them again.
Right.
Because what else? I'm trying to follow this logically. To sit there as a human being that's been told this,
Right.
okay, you got told that August 13th, Trump's going to be reinstated. So when August 13th comes and goes, and Trump's not your president again, in terms of on the national stage, living in the White House,
Mm-hmm.
recognized by other foreign powers, what do you do mentally?
Right.
to make that like work.
Right. Yeah, and it's like, I'm sorry, in my viewpoint, Trump was never president. He should have never been president, and he'll continue never to be
Oh,
president.
for the love of God, I'm getting rid of this idiot.
Go for it.
Sorry, Ava Braun. What? You didn't catch that one?
Oh, I saw that. I was just letting you
Oh, okay.
handle it. You know, there are things that the bear has to go in and step into. There are other things that I have gotten to the point it's like, fuck it, let the cub handle it.
Yeah, no, I'm just reading that one going, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I'm sitting here, like, trying to make a point about idiocy anyway, but then I look over and I'm seeing the name Ava Braun and I'm going, oh, that's cute. My husband and I have been in isolation since 1940. Okay, that was funny, but no. Like, I ain't even waiting for the rest of it.
Right.
Yeah, it was. It was right up my alley. I guess I can say I appreciate that one.
Right.
But still, like, come on, YouTube.
Give
Like,
us
Ava
better
Braun,
game. If you're going to troll us well.
you know, like, I would still think that I don't know. I don't run YouTube, but I would think that if you're like trying to have a legitimate platform in which you think your users are real, Ava Braun being a large name out of history, I think I'd be asking for some proof when someone registers an account as Ava Braun. Like, come on.
Speaking of YouTube, they've been on the naughty. Well, actually, I think they're amazing. I think YouTube is very amazing for what they've done here. Our favorite jester himself are not a medical doctor anymore. Thank you, AMA, for suspending his medical license. So he runs over with his family to create another board to recognize him. Ron Paul, dear lost Ron Paul, lost so far into the woods, Ron Paul, who has a financial stake, we find.
Oh yeah. Well, Rand Paul's wife has a stake in Gilead Pharmaceuticals.
Okay, two things here on this. One, if you think that he does not have a financial stake through his wife, is like saying that you do not benefit from me having a reading.
On the same boat, though, just because I would technically benefit doesn't mean that I necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, by the same token, I don't always directly benefit from that. I mean, you may take all that money and decide to go, hey, I'm going to have a nice steak dinner and, screw you. You could.
Uh-huh.
I'm just saying you could. Um, but at the same time, no, I'm not going to interrupt you in the middle of it.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think that you're going to stop it from happening. But oh, Ron Paul.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Got suspended from YouTube for making videos of shit he doesn't know jack shit about, i.e., masks don't work. Well, yes, they do. They worked in 1912. They work still today. And we've now moved back to wearing them.
Right. And I think everyone's biggest concern is they're not 100% effective. As in, this is not a 100% guarantee. And I'm going, well, what besides a hermetically sealed hamster ball would be? Like follow that one along.
Mm-hmm.
Like, birth control isn't 100% effective. Like, it fails.
Right.
I'm proof. Sorry, my mom had her tubes tied. I'm still here. Things happen. It's not a 100%.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of 100% methods. Typically, that's not done as birth control, for example. So, again, besides running around in a hermetically sealed hamster ball,
Mm-hmm.
this is a good choice. And it's an affordable, reasonable one.
Right.
It's one that you can get into the hands of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That, right, that is also something that is not a major imposition.
Right.
Again, trying to live your life in a hermetically sealed hamster ball is really got to be difficult.
Right.
Like, and if you need to visualize this, do you not remember the little, like, what was that? Challenge of the Gladiators, or what was that? It used to be on television. They had the great big giant pugilistics, and anyway, they had a hamster ball segment.
Right.
It's what I always thought of it as. I forget what they're called. But imagine that completely sealed. You know, you got your little like air tank. You can go out for like 2 or 3 hours at a time. And then you gotta get your happy little butt home, or you like die of suffocation.
Right. But, you know, so one, YouTube suspended him. Then it comes out today, and he's been having a time, y'all. You know, first the AMA suspended him. Then he had to go and form a board with his family members to create something so that he could keep his practice open. And then YouTube suspended him for a week and told him if he does it again, they're going to delete his account. And then it came out today that Ron Paul, who was the only president to vote against the emergency orders in February.
The only president?
I mean, the only senator to vote against it. Like, even Clamhead Mick voted for it.
Right.
It was revealed that Ron Paul's wife, Kelly Paul, purchased stock in Gilead Sciences on February 26, 2020.
Yeah. Sorry, the reason I keep trying to like be careful here is there is a Ron Paul and a Rand Paul. So we are talking about Rand Paul.
Yes.
Okay, just trying to make sure everyone's clear and on the same page because, yeah. Because if I remember right, even Ron Paul thinks Rand Paul's a little bit of an idiot.
Right. So anyway, Kentucky senator, pain in the ass, had a financial stake in COVID spreading.
Well, and here's the thing, though, that Mary's pointing out, and it is something of a legitimate point in terms of what you're saying is effectively true. But technically, and if this, and I'm not 100% sure on whether this is 100% accurate. Mary's pointing out that Kentucky is not a community property state, which does mean that her assets are separate from his assets already. That as long as it doesn't have an and or an or attached to the asset, she has her own private property.
Right.
So she can own her own house. She can own her own, you know, whatever. And should they ever go to divide property, he can't necessarily touch that. Basically, it's one of those states that you could move all your money to a different account. And theoretically, your spouse has no right to it.
Right.
Unless you can actually prove that, you know, that's a separate, or that was actually bought with marital funds. That, like, your and funds bought an or thing, I believe is the way that works.
It is, but still, not the point here. Point here is he still had a financial stake.
Well, moreover, it's kind of unlikely that he didn't know that was occurring. And even if it is her own private asset, again, much like you doing a reading, much like you know, owning anything, like your computer is your computer. Like, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Like, this is the way I think about it. Your computer is your computer. But why would I intentionally do something to an asset you own? Like, you know, like, that's not, like, part of a happy, healthy marriage or
No.
happy relationship of any kind. Like I, it's the same as in reverse. My computer is my computer, and why would you want to do something to it, negatively harming it?
Right.
No, it doesn't. Like, that's not going to end well. We're going to argue a lot.
Well, what's interesting is this disclosure came 16 months after the 45-day deadline for reporting such purchases laid down in the Stock Act and designated to curb insider trading. So they held it back for 16 months.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, she bought the stock on February 26th. He voted on March 5th. So let's see. 1, 2, was it a leap year? It was a leap year. 3, 8 days.
Yeah.
She buys stock. 8 days later, he votes against. That's high.
Yeah.
And it's not like it was technically the bigger issue isn't that this occurred, it's that he didn't even file it.
Right.
Like he was required to do, to say, hey, this is what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Because the general principle is, if you're not doing anything wrong and you didn't do anything that wasn't above board, then why hide it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's sort of like, how to put this in context? It's kind of a moment of, if you're writing a legitimate check out of your spousal account, and, it's, $500 for, groceries or, a new couch or whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm trying to think of something that was $500. I really should have chosen a different amount, but you get the theory. Then if it's all legit, then why do you care if I see the canceled checks?
Exactly.
Why would you care enough to not, or to write in something different there? Like, accidents happen, but if you don't want me to see the checkbook register and you don't want me to see the canceled checks, okay, that leads me to be suspicious. Also, how my mother actually almost pulled a fast one and actually surprised my dad for his birthday one year. Unfortunately, he went through the checkbook register and found the one flippin' item that didn't have anything written in on it.
Right.
But mom, being mom,
wrote
in the amount and subtracted it to carry forward the balance, because she didn't want to screw herself up. She didn't want to sit there with a bad bank balance and try to, like, oh God, I got to remember I spent this money so that I don't bounce any checks. So she wrote it all in, but didn't write what it was for. And then dad, being dad, goes, what's this? Probably the first, maybe only time in their entire marriage dad probably ever flipped through the checkbook register at that point.
See, that's why I don't keep them. All right. So, to answer Mary's question, Mrs. Paul is a consultant and a freelance writer. She has worked as a consultant for the strategy group for media, and has published a book titled True and Consistent Friends in April of 15.
Oh, yeah, they do have to disclose these things. Again, it's to be able to track the activities, to begin to see what someone's doing, and whether or not it actually is as above board as they say it is.
Right.
Because, and ultimately, when you don't report, you draw suspicion on yourself that you're obviously trying to hide.
Yep.
That, again, it may still be an above board transaction, and you may be able to argue that these two things are unrelated.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they may be unrelated.
Mm-hmm.
The suspension of disbelief, she acted in her own best interest as she saw independently fit to do,
Mm-hmm.
to buy stock, sell stock, do whatever she wanted to. And they never discussed it. She had no additional information. She didn't do anything connected to her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now,
these are oddly timed events.
Right. Does anyone find it ironic that Gilead Sciences is the company that made a previous used antivirus? Gilead? I would be changing the name of that company yesterday.
Oh, Gilead's an old pharmaceutical company, though.
Again, PR nightmare.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm just trying to think back. I think that's an older one. Like, I'm just looking real quick. I think that's one of those, like, it's unfortunate The Handmaid's Tale came out. And made that so synonymous with so many horrible things. Well, not quite as old as I thought.
No. Looks to me like they take standardly medications that are off-brand.
Well, yeah. Originally, they were oligogen in June 1987, so they're younger than I am.
Mm-hmm.
And then, let's see, I'm trying to figure out when the company changed its name. Let's see. Soon changed its name. Yeah. Oh, the company focused its early research on making small strands of DNA oligomers, hence oligogen, or to target specific genetic code sequences. That is antisense therapy, a form of gene therapy. Because of the expected healing potential of such research, oligogen soon changed its name to Gilead Sciences after the reputed healing properties of the ancient balm of Gilead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's again, because technically, I'm trying to think, because Handmaid's Tale is an older book.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think how coincidental they were in terms of the book. 1985, so the book came first. Oops. I guess they didn't expect it to be a runaway success that really trashed the name Gilead. Of course, then again, until it was a television program.
Right.
But still. I find things like that interesting. Thank you, Wikipedia.
Yes, and then still, I find it really earth-shaking that we have a pharmaceutical company named after a government, and we have a government official's wife buying stock for a company, and then him voting against the bill that would only cause the use of the product that they are currently working on, their only mainstay product.
Mm-hmm. Well, fundamentally, the interest in protecting people from getting infected versus the interest in selling more pharmaceuticals to potentially heal people.
Right.
Like that's a weird position to be in.
Right.
Oh, $24.69 billion per year is where Gilead's at in terms of earnings.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money.
Yep. That's a very lot of money.
But then again, you can make the same argument with every single pharmaceutical company.
Yes.
Is it from a kind of a logical, rational standpoint? Those companies are interested in you being as sick as possible, as many of you being as sick as possible. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're interested in causing you to become sick. Because if anything, if you haven't noticed, all of these commercials for medications get into some really generic forms of, the problems they treat. Enough so that it causes a lot of people to wonder if they have and talk to their doctor about any number of potential illnesses based on some really weak symptoms. As in, you could be describing everything from the flu to cancer.
Right.
Or seasonal allergies, or some weird disease no one's ever heard of, buried in the way back of beyond of Wikipedia.
Right.
So yeah.
The fun of it all. Oh, so I'm hoping he gets brought up on ethical charges. That's where we're at with this. We want ethics charges against him because he's already been fined for not wearing a mask multiple times.
Well, and moreover, it's not so much that I want him charged; I want him investigated.
Oh, I want him charged.
That's where I'm at. Is look at this. Look at this very closely. Ethics-wise, look at this very closely. Because he's basically thrown every red flag possible for you to go, look at me. Look over here. This is it. This is what I'm doing. Hi, what more do you need? Look at this carefully. Because something tells me this is going to end up being a pattern.
Yes.
And it could be a pattern of, even though it's a legitimate transaction, given Rand Paul's reputation, it's probably intentionally meant to be a middle finger to ethics and oversight.
Right.
That's what I think it's going to turn into, though. At the end of the day, is he knew full well what it would look like if he didn't file this. And he chose not to.
Right.
That he knew what was going on. He knew it was unrelated. He knew that even if they investigate, you're never going to find a connection. But then he turned around and said, but I know how it's going to look. And I don't like being investigated. I don't like this idea that the government can tell me what to do. And stuck a middle finger up. That's my thoughts.
Well, and my thoughts in general is this. I hope they investigate his ass so darn deep. They go through his taxes. They go through every little free lunch and dinner he has and write him up a bill.
Well, and I think the bigger thing that's going to come out of it is when you're someone who keeps doing that, just take a moment and look at history. And if you're gonna think like this, take a moment and learn from history. They don't typically take down criminals on criminal charges to start with. They get them because once you get someone's attention to look at you and pay attention to your finances, it's all the little things. It's all the little tiny things that you've gotten away with, that no one would have ever said anything about, that no one really cared about, that will rip you to shreds if someone goes through your finances with a vengeance and a desire to take you down.
Right. Well, and I think this should be going for every one of our senators and representatives. They should be gone through their accounting. Everything should be gone through with a fine-tooth comb.
But it turns out you have more problems as a regular, ordinary taxpayer with getting audited.
I know.
Because it's easier. It's easier to go after, hi, I'm, so and so, and this is my wife, and we have a, our own small business, and after everything, we earn about $75,000 a year. It's easier to go after them for tax evasion and for every little thing they do wrong, because they don't have the war chest of money to hire really expensive attorneys to drag it through the courts for a couple of decades.
Well, see, this is not where I want the IRS to do it. I want the DOJ to do it.
Well, but ultimately, I think you're going to end up with the SEC and the IRS having to be the heavy lifters.
Right.
Well, because ultimately that's what it comes down to, is this deals, while the interconnection becomes the Department of Justice, becomes the ethics problem. It's the finances that are causing a potential conflict of ethics.
Right.
And so ultimately you have to rely on what does the SEC think about this in terms of its timing, and what information could she have had, and why would she have done this, and what did she tell her investment broker, and what are any IRS issues? Because again, it all comes back to the money,
right,
that fundamentally creates the ethics problem.
Exactly.
But you have to deal with it in the money circles. And the two money circles that are ultimately going to get involved are the IRS and the SEC. So yeah, fun with forensics. Forensic accounting is fun. Or at least one of my sisters keeps trying to tell us that. Yeah. I'm like, no. Well, I mean, I think it can be. I don't want to do it.
Well,
I don't want to do it.
That says that it's fun. I really think she had too much LSD in the 70s.
She did not.
Baloney.
She did not. She was a little girl.
I've dealt with forensic accounting. I've done forensic accounting. No.
You're just wrong. You're just wrong. I'm going to make her beat you up.
Bring it on, honey. Bring it on. I don't have a problem slapping a sister all the way to the mud.
Oh, that's just mean. You're horrible.
Yes, I am.
Oh, yeah. Forensic IT can be fun. That is true. Going all the way back to the beginning and like, what did you do and why? That's, yeah. Mary, you would love, by the way, and I'm not going to get into too much detail, but I got a call from a client earlier this week. They wanted me to do a site visit, and in this newer building they're moving into, and Mary, it's a closet that has networking equipment and a toilet. I'm just sitting there like, wow. And if only it were bigger, I swear to God, I would be doing like Tales from IT Reddit posting on this one. But I can't get a camera angle that can catch both. It's fun. No, not storage. Not storage. Not storage.
Strange, darling. Your reading is becoming like your hearing.
Pardon?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, it's very weird. But yes. Oh. Sorry, misread that. Yes. So, yes, well, it will be. Right now it's an empty site with or an empty rack. It's not even a cabinet. But it is a rack that currently has like the cable modems and this little baby, router. And this is and a patch panel. Where I need to put in a network switch and all the other accoutrements and a toilet.
After you decode the Jimmy rigging of their phone system.
That's its own other issue. Like, that's a picture of that. That's a picture in and of itself. But no, I was sitting there and like, I'm glad they warned me. Like, before they would open the door, they said, I'm just going to tell you now, there's a toilet. And I went, what? And this door opens. And there it is. There's a toilet and a rack. I'm like, oh, this is great. Oh, no, not voice over IP. No. That would have thrilled me. Oh, Techy Joe, the internet sleuth. No, it's thing. Yeah, the toilet's staying. Well, actually, technically, I didn't ask. I was so surprised. What do you say in that moment? Like, I know what was going through my mind, and none of it was client appropriate. Like, I mean, most of it involved F-bombs, but it would have been directed towards the people that actually did this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, the person that actually decided these things should go together. Like, this was a good plan. This is what we'll do. Like, one of those, like, bear with me, hear me out. What we're going to do is, like, because this is an office that's been through a few hands. So someone went into the site, looked at all of the available space, and one of two things had to have occurred. I don't know what the chicken or the egg is in this situation. I don't know whether this was originally like a storage room with an IT rack, or if this was just a storage room and someone put a toilet in it and then someone else put a IT rack. I don't know what the chicken and egg situation is.
Well, I think
it has ended up.
Well, I think the chicken and the egg situation was just a bathroom that the office didn't require, so they went ahead and removed the sink and installed for you a rack.
Oh, I love what Barry just said. Sounds like a disaster recovery plan for keeping this network on. Honestly, I think this would have been an approved expense at the last company I worked for. Back when we had our really, really sad PBX system, which is a phone system. This was a giant wall-mounted, like, horizontal rack that had two cards that you had to be at least 5'10", or at least have a 5'10" person's wingspan to be able to reseat two cards at the same time. I swear we could have gotten it approved. I think we could have gotten a toilet approved for our server room. I really do. I think we could have. I don't know why we never tried.
Because then you would be able to find your boss.
Oh! See, I wasn't going to say it. I wasn't going to say it. I wasn't going to say it.
Honey, I'm a bitch. I can say it. So, Supreme Court Amy Colin Barrett. Yeah.
I just get the right name. Amy Barrett.
Amy Barrett is disappointing the Republican Party so much. She was supposed to be their golden child that they rammed through without even KY.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So she is upholding the mask mandate and Indiana University, if I can talk today, that requires students and employees to get vaccinated against COVID-19. She said, nope, we're not even going to hear it.
Basically.
Yep.
That's the long and short of it, is that, and what we keep struggling with, what people seem to keep struggling with, is, yes, this is called discrimination. This is legal discrimination. That you are fighting a battle that falls in the same category as discriminating against pedophiles when hiring for a school system or a daycare, which is considered a legal form of discrimination, should tell you where you're at in your argument without anyone else having to comment and explain it to you. But yet it hasn't.
Right.
It
Well,
hasn't.
it's like that we're now seeing, and it's been one of the leading new additives to job placement categories is COVID vaccine. I told you guys as soon as the vaccines come out, the healthcare workers would be mandated to take it. Now we're seeing other companies like Facebook and everywhere else taking it. And here in local news, we're seeing the effects of what happens when it doesn't happen. When, because Genesis, one of my not so favorite healthcare organizations, did not require their employees to get the vaccine. So you know what's happened? We now have breakthrough. And one of the local nursing homes is reporting 53 cases of residents with COVID-19. 37 of them are breakthrough cases, and 17 staff members have tested positive. And that's at one of their facilities. The other facility, 11 patients have tested positive. Now, for those in the know, knows that when the vaccine came out, it first went to our nursing homes. It did not, however, get pushed to our staff. Our staff was not required to have it. So now we have 3 elderly patients sick.
Well, and moreover, I would really would have hoped. Let me go this. I would have really hoped that this wouldn't be a problem in healthcare. You know what I mean? Like, that is sort of like me deciding in IT that I don't want technology in my home. You know, like, I'm going to work on it. I'm going to work on other people's technology, but I don't want it in my home. So I would be sitting here with like an ice box, a wood-fired stove, and a butter churn. Okay, but why would you, like, you know what I mean? Like, you would think,
right,
as a healthcare as someone who works in the healthcare field, as a healthcare professional, you would get it, you would, if nothing else, even if you were on the fence about it, would go, hey, I see all these patients. All of these patients are very vulnerable. Maybe it isn't the best. And again, take a moment. That even if you're sitting there thinking this is like a crap vaccination, even if you're sitting there thinking that, you know, they haven't proven blah, 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 you know, even if that you would sit there and look at the vulnerable population that you're serving and go, I should at least do it out of respect for the fact that I am working with such a vulnerable population.
Right.
I don't get it.
Yeah. And yes, federal law allows them to require the vaccination.
Yeah.
Yeah. It gives them permission to do so. We saw this with the flu vaccine. H1N1. Every nurse in the state of West Virginia is required to get a flu vaccine. If you do not get a flu vaccine, your nursing license are pulled, which means you aren't a nurse anymore.
Yeah. That's how that works.
Yeah.
Like, as in, hi. Again, it's if you're in healthcare, why? And again, if you want to hold on to I hate this, it's not properly, blah, 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 it's not approved, it's not whatever, it's not blah, 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 whatever. That's a personal belief that you have, but you're still working in healthcare, you're still working around vulnerable populations, you are still highly susceptible to getting it yourself. Wouldn't you want to just self-eliminate if you can't bring yourself to do this? Like, if you want to lock into this moral stand that, by God, I have a right to choose for myself, then wouldn't you self-eliminate and just go, hey, I'm sorry, I can't, I cannot reconcile these two things. Like, these are my beliefs, and this is what you're asking me to do, and they are at odds. I can't, in good consciousness, continue to work here because you're asking me to go against these things. Why wouldn't you just self-eliminate and get out of the situation if it is so important to you?
Well,
if it is so important to you.
I'm taking the other side of this viewpoint. My other side of this viewpoint is, how can you not protect your patients?
Well, effectively, that's what, and that's why generally we have so much respect for especially nursing home workers, considering the strain that they are under. And the fact that if no one shows up for their next shift, these are the people that will continue to be there because they are state required to do so. Like, they can end up working for days, months, if no one comes in to relieve them.
Right.
They are not allowed to abandon their patients because they have a duty of care. And if they are caught doing so, they also lose their license.
Right.
It's considered a form of abuse.
It is. And this should be labeled as abuse.
Well, and that's, I think, ultimately the theory that gets them to, we're jerking your medical, or your, nursing license.
Right. So I don't get this. I don't get how that was not, when it came out, why it was not mandated, why they were not pushed to the front of the line. Because the argument that's being heard out of the unions is that we couldn't get the vaccine. Yeah.
I don't get it. I mean, again, this is why typically there is or should be, I'm not saying everyone has it, but why there should be a lot of respect for many people in medical, that are medical professionals.
Right.
That nurse can be a nursing home nurse. And they can work 18 straight hours. And you better believe that if there's an accident on the side of the road, they're pulling over.
Right.
No matter how tired they are, they're still going to stop and help. What I'm hearing is these are people that will see that accident and would just keep driving, going, I did my 18 hours, let them die. Because that's the mentality you have to have. In order for this not to make sense to you and for you to continue arguing it.
Right.
That's
and that's where you have to look at this and go, what the hell? And then we have now corporate jobs. I was looking at an article a second ago that was showing which ones are already requiring it. Google, Facebook. I mean, unemployment rates are going up, but at the same time, In software development, there's 483 jobs posted out over 1 million, requiring every 1 million require a vaccination in July. Now that's gone up almost 10,000%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like we could be looking at McDonald's employees requiring McDonald's to require their employees to be vaccinated
Or get fired.
or get fired. That is your choice.
Yeah. I mean, again, to some degree, I can understand if you have a reservation.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not your belief, you're not comfortable with the science, etc. That's okay. You can do that. But sort of like you've been telling everyone for many, many years now,
Mm-hmm.
find another job.
Mm-hmm.
Work somewhere else. Try working for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Then you run your own business and you set your rules, and you don't have to worry about that requirement because you're not going to make it of yourself.
Right.
Because you've already said,
mm-hmm.
Now you just have to deal with the number of clients who will not let you on their premises
Mm-hmm.
because they aren't bringing in outside vendors that are not vaccinated.
Right.
I don't see why a group of people that have been talking about personal responsibility
Mm-hmm.
for this many fucking decades
Mm-hmm.
are struggling.
Well, not only that, but now, some like New York has the vaccine passport. You have to show a vaccine to be able to do certain activities, that type of thing. Remember that cake, that lovely Supreme Order about cakes and wedding cakes and how people could discriminate against cakes? Now it's going to bite them in their ass.
Yeah. Again.
And they won't be traveling to Canada because Canada announced that all airway travel to Canada are required to be vaccinated.
Of course, then the add-on problem that's sprung up out of this is the unfortunate reality that there are fake vaccine cards being sold that people are buying or have bought, fundamentally creating reasonable doubt and suspicion of vaccination cards anyway.
Right. I feel they'll probably go back and require, there will be some type of government entity that goes back and regulates this.
But here's my problem, and what I'm more concerned with, and it's to a point. Back when there was discussion that there could be a national database, I understood the concern.
Right.
That's a lot of personal healthcare data and information being controlled by some government entity for an unknown period of time, and that could be rife with abuse.
Right.
So I could understand the argument being made that we shouldn't do that.
Right.
But every time one of those cards has been sold, every time it has made the news, every time they have shut down somewhere selling them, I have to go back and look at it, revisit that idea and go, but this is why we should have.
Exactly.
Is because
and
this
just for the
is
record,
what happened.
Yes, you can be fined a lot of money, or you can be placed in 5 years in jail for having a fake COVID card. Not to mention, charged with, I think should be charged with murder.
That one's debatable. That last one, I can understand your logic and your theory and your thoughts. I don't know that that's necessarily a wrong solution there. But at the same time, it's going. I still have to stop and look at it as I effectively in doing that. You didn't gain anything other than the ability to do something that you shouldn't have been able to do. And ultimately, yes, you and everyone else who did that may never get sick. You may never pass this on. But you brought into question the whole vaccination of an entire country. Because I can show up with my card. I got 2 needle sticks in my arm.
And we'll get a third.
Well, when that becomes, when that's required. I had a vaccination. What happens if someone looks at my card and decides it looks fake?
Right.
What happens to me when your fake is good enough that my real card looks fake? And it's a hypothetical.
Right.
But it's going to happen that just as we're trying to catch all the fake ones, someone who legitimately had the vaccination is going to get stuck in this.
Right.
Not intended. It is not going to be able to now prove they really did have a vaccination, other than to sit here and try to swear on a stack of Bibles.
Well, actually, there's control numbers.
Pardon?
There's control numbers, but anyhow, we will not go into that.
Yeah.
But I do want to answer Sandy's question, if you'll read it for me.
All right, but how much info does the government have on us? They can get anything if they want it bad enough.
Well, they don't have to get anything. Any transaction over, I believe it's $900 goes to report. All medical records in one way or another are stored by the government in government retainments. Their tax records are stored. Your internet browsing history and your cell phone history is stored by the ISP and has to by 6 months. Under the federal government, literally, they know every damn thing you're doing.
Or can, more importantly.
Yeah.
And even your medical records can come into the courtroom as evidence. All of these things are true. Generally speaking, your average person walking down the street, their health, and granted, there are safeguards around this in how that information is supposed to be used and how it can be handled. Granted, the United States has not always been the best with this.
Right.
And it's a mess. It is already a mess. But on top of that, that's what killed me on it, is we should, as much as I hate the idea of it, we should have done a national database. We really, really should have. And it should have been the most locked down national, in terms of the only way you can get on there is 100% you have had a vaccination.
Right.
Like, it should have been full on, take your photo,
right.
database.
Right.
But I also know that would end up abused. It would end up horribly, horribly abused. I still think it would have been the better choice.
Right. And I think it will continue to be the better choice. I think for years now, we should have already been to the point to where all our vaccines are listed. Because I'm going back trying to figure out which ones I've got to get updated.
Well, and that's kind of the thing. Okay, let's take a moment and talk about that, can
Yeah.
we?
Yeah.
Just because I'm having this moment as I, am now in my very late 30s,
Hmm.
and holding on to that 30s as long as I can. Like, I'm going to squeeze every last drop out of being able to say I'm in my late 30s. Um, it always seemed like you got vaccinated until you were 18 and then you were supposed to be done with this crap unless you joined the military and got deployed to some country that had, something we don't vaccinate for
Hmm.
because no one gets it.
Right.
Or, otherwise in traveling you would be exposed and you would need a booster. Um like basically it was just supposed to be like tetanus. That's what I thought. I thought adulthood, your next vaccination was tetanus.
Right.
And then we just kind of were not supposed to need anything. And I'm going, did everyone else get the same impression too? Like, did you just turn like 18 and think you were done?
Yeah.
Like, I'm legitimately asking, was like everyone else, did they turn 18 and think you were done? Only to find out, no, there's all these other things. Like, yeah, now there's tetanus and shingles and pneumonia. Oh, well, flu. We knew flu.
Hmm.
Like, I saw that one kind of somewhere in my late 20s and went, all right, we're going to need flu vaccinations now. I got that. But I'm sitting here like, I turned 18, thought I was done.
Yeah. No.
Like, there wasn't going to be any more. And there's not really, like, a discussion about it. Like, you turn 18 and if you don't go to college, or even if you do, by 24 you think, or 22, I guess technically 23,
Right.
somewhere in there, ultimately by 24 you think you're done.
Right.
Like, that's it, no more vaccinations, I've been vaccinated, had all my shots, every shot I could have, unless I'm going to some weird remote place that no one goes to.
Right.
you
Okay.
know
We know the influenza is yearly. Um, we know tetanus is one dose each pregnancy and one dose for wound management, so every 5 years. Measles, mumps, and rubella is one or two doses depending on indication if born after 1957 or later, up until your 60s. Varicella, VER, two doses if born in the 80s, and two doses into a greater 65-year age. Zesta rumbosa, two doses in your 50s and 60s. Human pathological, 2 to 3 doses on the age of initial vaccination, and 27 through 54, you'll need a dose.
and I think you meant HPV, human papilloma virus.
Yes.
Okay.
Pneumonia congestion, 1 dose, and of course, in your 65s, another 2 doses. Hepatitis A, 1 to 2 doses depending on vaccine. Hep B, 2 to 3 doses depending on vaccine. Mensa, MENACYWY, 1 to 2 doses, and initial and including a booster for recommendations. Uh, Min B, you get 1 dose when you're 19 through 23, and then you get 2 to 3 doses depending on vaccine and the indicators throughout your life.
Meanwhile, okay, or oh, sorry, is that the list or no? There's still more.
There's one more. Uh,
Okay.
HB, 1 to 3 doses depending on indicators.
Okay. So anyone else having this moment where, like, even Super Doc, who we love,
Mm-hmm.
even Super Doc, who we love, really it's only been about flu,
Mm-hmm.
pneumonia, and oh, what's his third one? No, flu and pneumonia. Those are the only two he's been super interested. Besides this one, of course, but
And
those are the only really tetanus.
yeah, he
Uh
likes to keep me updated on my tetanus. Something about me getting injured a lot.
huh.
I think he thinks
Um.
that I'm a stage actor or something. I don't know.
Well, yeah, your ballerina like moves there. Um. But no, I'm just even Super Doc. Those were the two he's mentioned to me:
Right.
pneumonia and flu.
Right.
Pneumonia, flu. Pneumonia, flu. That's it. That's everything anyone's been interested in. I was horrified in the early 2000s
Uh-huh.
because the local health department in Greensboro, North Carolina, was, or not the local, I don't think it was local health department. Sorry. The local, I can't think of it. Let's go with health department for a minute. I'll think of it and fix it. Started offering Hep B vaccinations.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought this was absolutely awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then we tried to get people to sign up. I'm in North Carolina. I'm not getting why no one's interested.
Mm-hmm.
Until someone finally looked me dead in the eye and said, Joe, North Carolina requires this as part of your normal vaccination schedule before age 18.
Mm-hmm.
This is just for y'all who aren't from a state that requires that.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Like, this is why we have such a hepatitis problem in West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you know? Like, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at, I graduated 20 some years ago now. I'm just suddenly looking around at an entire population that would be, vulnerable
Right.
and unvaccinated.
Yeah.
Because what? We didn't care. We didn't think it was important. The local health departments in 55 counties need something to do.
Well, no, here's the thing, and this is the problem, is a lot of places have now gotten into, well, we can give that to you. Well, we can give that to you. Well, you can give you that. Great, because Hep B was given. It was required for my work, so I got it at work. Nancy, go get the vial. Let's do this. Let's get it over with. 2 shots, great. See you next Thursday. I'll do yours.
West Virginia did not require it for me.
Yeah, they did
Like,
not require it for people. And then there's now vaccines that have come out since we were in school.
yeah,
HPV. Didn't even know it existed when I was in school.
it didn't.
Yeah.
Well, more importantly, it didn't. It didn't exist when I was in school. I was already in my, I think, late 20s,
Right.
mid 20s, somewhere in there. West Virginia, I don't think does yet require Hep B.
Only if for certain positions in the healthcare industry is it required.
Yeah. So, and that's today.
Yes.
This is how I didn't get a Hep B vaccine until like 2002,
Yep.
2003. I mean, yeah. I mean, well, and then you have the anti-vax effect of like Texas attempted to mandate HPV for all females post-puberty and failed.
Right. And they continue, and this is stuff that we as patients apparently have to know because it isn't standard practice.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing with Texas, and this is my whole point on Texas: they got to get rid of their governor as soon as possible. Like, the Texans should be doing a recall or something, because he is the worst governor that I have seen in a state, and I've watched a few of them. Now, granted, I'm a little worried about Mrs. Brown up in Oregon. Governor Brown's a little, and here's why. She's now having to deploy 1,500 National Guards to support the local hospitals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Look for it, guys. Don't be surprised. And this could be setting off, I'm going to say this could be setting off a lot of older people, especially military people that have PTSD, when they see uniformed men walking into their hospital room.
Oh, Ashley asked a question we may have missed.
Ashley, yes, you're on the right path. You're on the right path, baby. All you just got to go in circles.
Okay. And yes, I just got kitty ambushed.
Did you get kitty ambushed?
I got kitty ambushed.
Oh.
Did not know she was back there.
Yeah, she likes hanging out back there. That's her favorite spot.
She loves the window.
She does. She does. She loves the window. She goes up there and is gone all day in her window. Loves watching the outside world and scaring the shit out of you just for the fun of it.
And knocking everything off my desk unless I leave her a little roadway. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes she just avoids it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not enough I left her a path.
Right.
She's got to, like, still, like, be like, no, I'm off-roading today.
Right.
Oh, anywho. Oh, but yes.
You got your groove back, honey. Turn the music up and dance your way away.
And Ashley was asking, 6 more weeks left before I'm back to myself, right? Or is it 5 now?
5.
Okay.
5 more weeks. Get your butt moving.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Mary, 11/28/57. I'm getting lots of IT emails, calls for work, vetting the recruiter. How much longer?
I don't think it's much longer till you go back to work. Let's get a card on timing. Oh, 9 weeks. 9 weeks till Mary gets money.
Well, that's 9 weeks to money, so I'm assuming that's a paycheck.
Normally.
So assuming 2-week pay period. I'm just saying.
All right, so we've got a little bit more time here. I want to do 2 things. I want to talk about this transgendered wrestler that called West Virginia hillbillies.
Oh, seriously?
Seriously.
Oh, where did you send that one?
I'll reiterate it to PR chat.
Oh, okay, cool. There we go. Sorry. Oh, mute that in case there's any. Oh, come on. There we go. Oh, that's literally the title of the article.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what? Who is this? WTRF? Oh, okay. Apparently, so yeah, okay. You start. I'm going to be reading.
All right. So AEW Nyla Rose, first transgendered wrestler in AEW, took to her Twitter to let her fans know what she thought of the Ohio Valley. She posted, Pittsburgh is West Virginians that want to be New Yorkers. Thumbs down. And when called on the carpet about this, she says, I only have 280 characters, so there's no way in hell I can explain everything wrong with West Virginia with that. It won't even scratch the surface. Besides, 86% of those hillbillies won't be able to read it anyway.
Oh, fun. So that's basically where the story stops.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
There's not been fallout. There's not been... Let's go see if she's even made an apology.
Oh, I'm sure that has not occurred. I mean, granted. On some level, it almost sounds like shit talking. On the other hand, it's kind of... really? Good grief. All right, I'm hitting news just to see. Not seeing apologizes, takes back, walks back.
Nope. I'm sitting here looking at the live tweet, and there's been nothing.
All righty. So apparently that's just a thing. And since I love Wikipedia, I was just looking to see if they've covered that one yet.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like they don't really care about her on Wikipedia.
No, she's not made Wikipedia. She's not big enough.
Oh, no. Oh. She has. Apparently, ring names include Debbie Kong and Nyla the Destroyer, in addition to Nyla Rose. Alrighty then. Okay.
Ooh, I do like this reply from Unknown. Pardon me if I don't take my cues from someone who likely isn't smart enough to locate West Virginia on a map that isn't labeled. Moreover, you can't make a slain point about a culture of a state you weren't even in. Geology lessons. Pittsburgh is in Pennsylvania.
Well, depending upon how many people went up for the match. I mean, it's West Virginia. We do like our wrestling.
Well, yes, we do. And, I would really like to support her, but I can't when she's moving one, and this annoys me. She's making discriminatory statements about one section of things when she's another class of people.
Well, moreover, while also wanting respect and inclusion.
Right.
Like that's the bigger salient point, is that it's kind of problematic. Although now that point's been made about the LGBTQ community for a while now. Is the effectively, or the big giant problem that effectively occurs within the community itself, with discrimination between members of the community against other members of the community.
Right.
I.e., the no fats, no femmes, no blacks, no Hispanics, no whatever. Like, we've seen this. Is that somehow being a discriminated against group sometimes also results in like some really weird discrimination, like you didn't get the point.
Right.
Like, I don't get it. Never really got that one.
Right.
So yeah.
Everyone knows the best news.
We have a train wreck going on. What's that?
Hey, friends, Brian from Rusty Wallace.
Didn't mute a site.
The FBI is trying to silence me. There we go.
Fair enough.
I swear, it's a real problem when we're trying to read the news and watch the news when we've already had to mute the news for the freaking ads.
Oh yeah, I find it. I believe me. The biggest problem I have is I go ahead and mute Facebook. Mostly because when I'm wearing the headset that I wear, if I get a ding out of anything, if anything takes over my sound, I lose all sound for our broadcast.
Yeah.
So I'm really over. Yeah. Right. And I hate having to sit here and be like, I don't know what's really going on, but I'm going to segue into something.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to segue into our happy news item for tonight.
Oh, we have happy news. That's right.
We have happy news out of Massachusetts Wildlife Center. Had a surprise.
Aw. Let's see. I am trying to get to that one. So that is the recovering from surgery at Massachusetts Wildlife Center. Has a surprise visitor.
Yeah.
All right.
For those of you who know, Canadian geese is one of the species that actually does marry. Now, the Wildlife Center in New England, in Massachusetts, has treated thousands of animals over the years, but the executive director said one recent case stood out from all the rest. It was a first for us. The patient was a Canadian goose named Arnold, and Arnold had a badly damaged foot. He was brought in, and they were preparing him for anesthesia when they heard a knock on the glass door. Arnold had a visitor, another goose.
Gotta love the life mating.
Yeah.
Apparently quite angry about Arnold being captured the day before.
Yes, was very upset that Arnold was captured, was very upset that Arnold was hurt. Their only guess was she saw the capture and followed him. And he was probably honking in the cage overnight. When he asked, the thought of Arnold's mate knew where he was.
Mm-hmm.
I want to point this out because I've been accused of this, of being able to track my mates and know what's going on and not have a damn clue what's going on. See,
Okay.
I'm just a little bit goose.
Duh.
So the staff had to let her in to visit him while he went under. And then after the surgery, the staff moved Arnold to the floor for recovery, where his mate, who they have named Amela, comforted and pruned him. And it's just a really cute picture of her looking after him. Goose do mate for life, but sometimes dreadful things happens to one, and typically remarry, but not Armella. She wasn't leaving her man. No honking away. No honking away.
It's a fun story. It really is.
It really is. Arnold was released a week ago and back to the wings of his beloved. Although the couple was in no rush to fly the coop, they wouldn't stick around for long. But after careful examination, examples of staying with us, because what's good for the goose is critical for mankind.
Aww.
Very heartwarming story.
And Lady Gwen points out that was in their blog for about soul connections.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very lighthearted news, but it's also very heartwarming news. So yeah, that was a great ender after the shit stream we just went through. Well, because it is we just went through a list of crap news in terms of it's all bad.
Right.
So yeah, yay, good one.
Very good one. But it's a great example of, because we a lot of times bring animal stories of, a love, like the penguin couple in the New York Zoo, that type of thing. I wanted to bring this one up. That yes, there are some species that mate for life. Humans aren't the only ones, although rare.
Well, then again, with our divorce rate, are we really mating for life?
See, here's this is something I really want to, like, the divorce rate apparently has gone down. People aren't divorcing as often.
I know, but even the cheating rate is still bad.
Well, and here's the problem. It's defining cheating, because we have a lot of cheating that's not cheating, and a lot of cheating that should be cheating, and yada, yada, yada. And that's when your couples have to develop their own terms for cheating. I.e., you spending more than $250 is cheating to me.
What?
You heard me.
Hey, I was just happy when I found out my limit was $250 and not $50. I was like, damn, I can barely buy gas.
You can buy gas.
Not to mention, I kept having to consult you on all of our trips to Sheets.
Tell me.
Because around our house, we honestly believe if we spend less than $50 there, our bank will suspend our cards and call us and tell us a responsible adult has stolen our card. Because we can't get out of Sheets for less than $50.
I mean, we can't get out of Sheets sometimes for less than $75, just depending on if we got to get fuel, cigarettes, food. But anyhow,
I know, right?
Yeah, so to the thought, our little small income compared to a senator who should be impoverished and working for minimum wage. Which I want to kind of dance into a subject. We'll go a little overtime for this one.
Okay.
The local one. This is a local story, and I'm kind of a little annoyed. So the city councilmen are looking at giving themselves raises.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our lovely substitute councilmen, he wasn't elected by the city of by Oak Hill or by Ward 1, wants to be paid $125 to go to a ribbon cutting.
Well, once a per diem.
Yeah.
Of $125 for basically any day that he does a non-covered activity.
Mm-hmm.
As in, like, he gets paid, but basically gets paid to, be on council, show up for meetings.
Right.
What he additionally wants is like every ribbon cutting, every class, every meeting, every whatever kicks a per diem of a flat rate.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I have a problem with those because I never want, I used to do reimbursements.
Mm-hmm.
When I was working with the volunteers. I was treasurer. I handled reimbursements for travel and travel expenses. It wasn't a flat per diem. You didn't just we went and had a meeting, so here's X amount of money. Hand me a receipt if it was a travel expense, which God knows none of them ever handed. Most of them didn't hand me enough receipts.
Mm-hmm.
I knew they were paying for other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't hand me a receipt because they didn't feel comfortable doing that.
Right.
They didn't want to, they weren't there to get the volunteers to pay for everything they did.
Right.
But they still, you had to travel, you had to eat out, you had to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
You had to drive there. You had to get a hotel room because it's a multi-day event.
Mm-hmm.
That part I get. I never want anyone to travel for any organization, even if it is local government.
Right.
And not get reimbursed for their expense. Definitely submit your mileage. Definitely submit, when you have to buy stuff, when you have to eat out, when you have to do stuff. I don't think anyone reasonable can sit there and say, hey, you shouldn't go broke doing this.
Right.
But at the same time, if all you had to do was drive 5 miles, go to a meeting for an hour,
mm-hmm.
I understand you may have, have some expenses related, but part of that I would think you would have considered before you ran.
Right.
That this is going to take some time. You're going to be in meetings. You're going to have to do a little bit of travel. Yes, reimburse the 5 miles. But your time, should a 1 hour or even a 30-minute meeting qualify for a $125 per diem?
Right. Or
and wouldn't
ribbon cutting.
Right. Well, and more importantly, wouldn't that encourage you to fill your calendar? You know what I mean? Spread stuff out, and instead of say take a day,
mm-hmm.
book it as heavy as you can, so it at least interferes with your, the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Because I still expect you to be able to have a life. I'm not crazy.
Right.
Wouldn't it encourage you to take instead of doing that, to sit there and spread that stuff out? That would be. That's how you would abuse that.
Right.
Is you could have 7 days a week with one little thing. You had to get on a conference call, $125. You had to go to a 30-minute meeting, $125. You went to a ribbon cutting, $125. Mm-hmm. You did lunch with so-and-so, and because it included
mm-hmm.
business for the city, $125, please.
Right.
This almost seems like you want to helicopter your way around the monopoly board and just keep passing go.
Right.
Collect $125 in this case, not $200, but collect $125. Collect $125.
Right.
if you were minded in such a way. What really troubled me in that meeting, or the public meeting, was the minute someone tried to address that point that this could be abused, and it really needed to be nailed down.
Right.
It was kind of like, but I wouldn't do that. And it's like, this isn't about you.
Right.
It's about the ability to do that. It's about the ability to not really have, because it was going to be a blanket.
Right.
And that it should be, and what got me in that conversation was that, well, then that would be an ethics problem and they can go to ethics about it.
Right.
But not if you don't have stringent, tight requirements on what the money's available for. Otherwise, you're making an ethics complaint without a potential ethics violation. You don't have rules that would make it unethical to do what you did. Like, you could sit there, see it as abusive. Like, everyone can call it, what it is, that it's abusive, but there's no rule that says you can't.
Right.
I mean,
that's the problem. That is one of the problems. The other problem here is I'm like, you're already getting $1,000 a month to attend a meeting a month for 4 hours.
Well, and again, arguably, there should be more that goes into it. Like, you do need to read. You do need to keep up on what's going on with the city. You do need to be aware of, different concerns of people in the city.
Right.
You shouldn't be walking into that meeting blind to the issues. So I assume you've got some homework to do. I can understand that amount of money. I can.
Right.
It's not just the time you're here.
Right.
There's going to be time outside of this. You're going to have to send some emails back and forth. You're going to have to sign some stuff. You're going to have to do a lot of things. That part, I understand the money you're getting.
Right.
I don't understand any kind of rule or reimbursement procedure that doesn't have some lockdown requirements.
Exactly.
As to, okay, but when can you claim that?
Right.
What can you claim that for? And hey, let's create some general guidelines to track abuse.
Exactly.
That, yes, we understand there's going to be situations in which you have to have meetings 7 days a week. And that all of those would be technically covered. But we don't want to actively encourage you to be billing for more than, say, 200 days.
Right.
Or 150 days worth of meetings. Sorry, we're not paying you anymore.
Right.
That's it. You've gotten a pretty hefty sum of money here. Walk away.
Right.
You're let it be considered covered.
Right.
We'll still cover your expenses for the trip. We'll still cover your gas mileage. We'll still cover this, but we will not pay you your flat per diem.
Exactly.
That's where I think that conversation should go. I think that's where members of city council tried to get it to. I can't believe anyone can, in good faith, sit there at that meeting and not follow the bouncy ball on that one, and instead take it like it's a personal attack that they're trying to game the system.
Right.
And it's like, no, it's not even what it's about. It's about the fact that someone could.
Right. And what is more serious is also still in other parts of government. He's part of the school board authority.
Well, and it also becomes a question when you're on multiple boards of being very, very careful that you're not double dipping. That you're not getting double reimbursed for the same thing.
Right.
Or even to some degree triple reimbursed, because there have been people that get the organizational reimbursement from both organizations. So you got reimbursed twice, for the same thing, and then you turn around and claimed it as an unreimbursed expense on your taxes.
Right.
So you now have that offsetting your income without declaring the reimbursements.
Right.
So you're sitting there with 2 reimbursements for the same thing you just claimed against your income, like without declaring the additional monies you receive.
Right.
That's a big, by the way, giant no. You don't ever want to pull that stunt.
Well,
is it per diem by zip code vis-a-vis our Treasury Department?
No, it comes out of the city funds. That comes out of the levies that we pay. That comes out of the municipal taxes that we pay. For him,
yeah, it sounded like he was.
Thing.
Yeah, it sounded like he was pulling it straight out of like general fund.
Right.
Is what would fundamentally happen is, I mean, per diem if on payroll is reported to IRS. Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. Potentially.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, that's the positive, and I guess I should clarify 2 different things. The per diem is one thing, and that would, of course, or hopefully go in as part of the declarations. I'm assuming on a 1099 or some equivalent, or W-2. Right. But I'm talking about the individual expenses reporting that people do. And don't ever screw with that. And especially if you're working for multiple companies or working with multiple boards, trying to claim a reimbursement in either, basically 2 or more places, or trying to take a reimbursed expense and claim it as a non-reimbursed expense on your taxes.
Right.
So it's all about being careful with that, especially for people that own their own business or are in control of those boards. Because that's usually where you start getting into some really ugly, like, tax evasion.
Right. These are things that I bring up, and here's why. We talk about national and all that, but local news, we've got to get, people need to be involved in their local. People need to know what their city is doing. Like, if I had bought a house 2 streets over, I wouldn't have to deal with their bullshit.
True. Well, more importantly, if the street we live on were actually owned by the city, we would actually have recourse.
Right.
The unfortunate part of this is this property was originally part of the county, which means that the road was maintained by the state. The city annexed the property, but the state wouldn't let them have the roads.
Right.
For unknown reasons. So when it came down to this whole project, we were stuck in a situation of, we live in the city. We are city residents. We are capable of receiving all city services. We are to be serviced by the city. Except when it comes to this road.
Right.
Once you hit the road, it's not city property.
Right.
Which leads me to a question that I don't think we ever got answered, going way back when. If someone has an accident on this road, I wonder if the city cops throw it to county or state.
Good question.
As in, if you do not leave the roadway, but have an accident, like, say, 2 cars rear end each other, I wonder if it pulls into that fun experience I had in Princeton, where I lived outside of the city limits.
Right.
There I lived outside of the city limits in the county by mere feet. As in, half the roadway, as in, you're looking at your road. One side of the road is city, one side of the road is county, and depending upon where your vehicle, where the accident started and where the vehicle ended up,
Mm-hmm.
The city and the county would argue who should be servicing the accident.
Well, I guess we'll probably find out come this September.
Mhm.
Well, guys, we got to wrap this up. We know we are late. Thank you guys for hanging out with us because we did run it over, but I wanted to talk about local events to encourage you to get involved in your local government if you do not hold a situation where you cannot. We will be back Tuesday, and we do have a guest, so that'll be fun. And we will be talking to them about dark romance, a new subject for us on this channel.
Very
All right, guys. Until then, have an amazing weekend. Wash your hands. Wear your mask. We are back to mask. And stay safe. Get your vaccine if you haven't had it. And have fun. Good
Absolutely.
night,
And we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda Bryant, Ashley Giss, Shannon C, Shannon D, and Lady Gwendolyn. We do love our baristas, our lovely Patreon supporters. If you'd like to learn more about the show or how to become a Patreon supporter yourself, please visit PCSPnetwork.com.
Yes. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Let's work. Yo, it's go time, showtime, never backing down time. One shot, yo, make it count, yo. Crunch time, shine time, make this moment my time. Get a grip, yo, ready, set, go. We bring the thunder. Bring the thunder. Let's work. Bring the thunder. Let's go. Bring the thunder. Let's work. Bring the thunder. Let's go. Yeah, it's my time, yo time. Step into the spotlight. Get lit, yo. Let yourself go. Our time, high time. Gotta go big time. This is it, yo. Never take no fight time. Grind time. Take it to the street time. Turn the roof off. Get loco. Get